your growth is not in her.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Geek-A-Tech. So, in continuation of Core Java series, today I have brought a very interesting question which mostly asked in interviews for automation as well as for the development also. It's a very interesting question related to Core Java, very Core Java basic principle. So the question is mostly asked that what is the difference between final, finally, and finalize keywords in Java? Okay, so today we are going to talk about these three things. So first of all, I would like to thank you to all my viewers and subscribers for their love and their support. And if you are new to my channel, please do like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to press notification. Okay, so here's the thing. So what we understand by final? So final is nothing but an access modifier. Okay, and it is applicable for all the variables and methods. Okay, we can put final before a variable and a method, so we can make them as a constant. And if we don't want to make the changes their values, so we can put them final, and so the values will remains the constant throughout the execution. And the third point about the final is that it will not allow to any other class to modify it, or suppose if we mark a class as final, then we cannot extend it. If we mark method as a final, then we cannot make modification in that particular method. Or if we make a variable as a final, then no modification will be applied. As in my last video also I have demonstrated about the final keywords stuff, so I will give the link in the description box for the final one, which I've demonstrated in my last video. Okay, also it will only execute it when it is called. Okay, it will only be executed when we call that variable, when we call that method, then only the final will be executed. So let's see how we can do that. Okay, so let's create the variable int age equals to 9. Okay, final, this is the variable we have created, and let's create a method also. Final void show. Okay, then println final method. Okay, so this is how we can create a method as a final, and this is how we can create a variable as final. So it's an access modifier. Okay, based on its usability, we can use it. So final is just a access modifier. Whenever we want to use it, we can use it. We can use it for making things as constant. Okay, so now let's come towards the finally. So what is finally? Okay, finally is used with the exceptions. Okay, when we want anything to be executed, if the exception occurs or not, okay, then it should execute. The piece of block should always execute. Then we use finally for that. It is used with exceptions. I will demonstrate you that how we can use the finally. So the finally is mostly used when we are doing certain read and write operations with the file, and we are giving we are handling the exception of file not found exception, or sometimes we can say the other IO exceptions. But we want that suppose if my file is open and in between the operations while writing it, if I got an exception, then it should close my file. Okay, so if the exception comes, then it will open the file, sorry, close the file. And if exception doesn't come, then also it should close the file. When my flow was smooth, then it should close the file after the complete work is done. Or in between, if I got any kind of exception, then it will close the file also. So closing the file is the mandatory piece we want always to be executed. Okay, so this is the scenario with the finally. So here, so that's why we used finally. Finally will always use with the exceptions. So let's see how we can use finally. Okay, so let me create an exception handling case over here. Each will be divided by 0 or okay, here I will mention, sorry, age I have marked as integer, game, game equal to, okay, so here I can use catch also. Okay, the thing is that we can use finally direct also with try if we don't want to use catch. Okay, but it's good to have a catch also, because whenever we have exception while running the test case or while running the scenario or while running the program, so if we have certain if we have the exception which we are trying to handle, then their catch should be there. Okay, so it will demonstrate us that what is the problem with the code and what kind of issue we have encountered. So catch should always be there. So exception ex, I've created a variable for that, then print, then ex dot print stack trace. So what it will do, it will print the complete stack trace, that why this exception will come. Okay, here you can see that definitely an exception will be there. Okay, because we are dividing 1 from 0, so it will give us an arithmetic exception. So here you can see that we can write down finally system dot out println finally will be executed. Okay, so this block will always execute where we have the exception or not. Okay, so we will see that I will demonstrate you first condition where these exception will occur, and the second condition where the exception will not occur. Okay, so let's try to run this program. Okay, so here you can see that, oh sorry, uh, final in Java 3. Okay, sorry, my bad. It was related to the previous one. Okay, let's run it again. Here you can see that we have an arithmetic exception over here, but and we got the finally will be executed. So whatever we have mentioned in the finally block, it will always be executed. So here we have an exception. Okay, as an arithmetic exception, we received an arithmetic exception, we got the complete straight trace for that. Afterwards the finally is executed. So now let's change it to, okay, so now there will be a no exception. Okay, because 1 can be divided by 1, so we will not get an exception. Now we will see that this finally will be executed or not. Again you can see that finally will be executed. So each and every condition where we have the exception or we don't have an exception, finally block will always be executed. So now you understand the difference between final and finally. Final is the access modifier, we can use it with methods and variables, where finally can always be used with the try catch block or with the exceptions, we can say. Without catch also we can use directly try. With the try we can use finally, but it's good to have a catch block also, so we whenever we have an exception, so we can understand what the exception is there. So the third point is finalize. So what finalize is do, first thing first, finalize is a method. Okay, it's a method, is method in Java which runs by the JVM. Okay, before the destruction of the objects. Okay, or it always works with the object. So what happened when the object creation, first we create the object, and when we use the object, and later on when there is no use of the object, okay, then we can forcefully say to garbage collector to destroy the object. Okay, so at that particular point of time finalize will be executed. Okay, so let's try. Okay, let me create an object of the class. Okay, finalize equal to new. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. The object has been created. Now, sorry, I made it at the wrong point. Okay, I have to put it over here. Okay, if I make it as null, okay, then also GC will run because there is no use of the object. Okay, so instead of that, if I use show method over here, okay, so now my this object is in use. I am calling the show method over here. Okay, using the object. Once it will done, afterwards I have no use of my object. So what I can do, dot finalize. Okay, I can use finalize over here. So I need to add an exception also. Okay, throwable exception will be required. Okay, so with finalize keyword, a throwable exception handling will always be required to use. Here what it will do, it will ensure that it should the garbage collector should run once we use the finalize. Okay, here we cannot see anything while running this program, but behind the scenes it will destroy the object. It will run when the object is destroyed. So here you can see that it's always applicable on objects. It's when used and then the object is no longer in use, and it just run before the destruction of the objects. And the fourth point is throwable, throwable kind of exception handling is required to be used with the finalize method. So this is the key difference between these three things. If someone asks you that what is the difference between final, finalize, and finally, so the basic and very simple answer is that final is an access modifier, finally is used with the exceptions, and it's a block using with the exceptions, and the finalize is the method which is used at the time of garbage collection, or when we don't want to, when there is no use of the object and the it runs before the destruction of the object. So these are the very basic uh, difference between this final, finalize, and finally. Okay, so this is all about these three differences, and this question is very common in the interviews also. So thank you for today. Please like, share, and subscribe my videos, and please suggest if you want any new more questions related to the already covered topics, like main method I have already covered. I have covered static blocks. I have already covered final keyword in Java. Okay, so if you want more questions regarding to that, so you can ping me in the comment section. Okay, I will try to cover them, and I will bring new more videos on core Java next week. Thank you very much.